Why take one vacation with the family when you could take all of them? With Royal Caribbean, you don't just go to the beach. You visit a private island and race down the tallest water slide in North America. You don't just go for a road trip. You ATV and zip line through the jungle. You don't just go somewhere new. You rappel down waterfalls and discover ancient temples. Because this isn't just any vacation. This is all the vacations. Come seek the Royal Caribbean. Ships Registry, Bahamas.
Drink it in, man.
Deep left side carry on. Picks on the block. At the 5, at the 2, at the 1 to the end zone. Touchdown, Detroit Lions.
Drink it in, man.
Get up, Stafford throws. It is end zone. Caught! Oh, baby, what a catch! Kenny Galladay, you're a freak! What a catch! Touchdown, Detroit Lions!
Cornbread! I love the Lions! Say it with me! I love the Lions!
Drink it in, man.
Welcome everybody to the Detroit Koolaid. It's Friday and this is Griff talking to you today. Once again, it's going to be a nice weekend, nice mild weather here in Michigan. It's been pretty calm all week. So once again on the weekend, it's getting closer to football. It's finally getting that fall feeling in the air. You go into the store, you're starting to see the pumpkin spice stuff all over the place. And I know I'm just jonesing for the Lions to get back to watch some real football. I mean, it's amazing how much you really miss preseason football, even though that's crappy football, and you really miss it. But it would give you something to do on the weekends when you're stuck inside trying to stay safe from everything. So once again, even though it's going to be nice, everybody stay safe, take care of yourself, and as always, TGIF. Thank God it's Friday. First thing I want to talk about here, once again, the big news. Everybody was, one thing me and Derek talked about on shows before was Yannick Ngakoue. I asked him one time, would you trade for him? Jacksonville was looking to get rid of him, and he was like, oh yeah, definitely. He was all about him. Match him up with Trey Flowers. It's a guy that can get back to the quarterback, something that the Lions definitely need. Gosh, it was, it could have been one of those things that really helped the team. I mean, I know there was, a little talk coming out of Jacksonville. He could have been a little bit of a malcontent in the locker room because he wasn't happy there, and he was looking to get out. And they were the whole time they're like, no, we're going to keep him. Well, obviously that didn't happen. And Minnesota Vikings, in our own division, was able to trade for him. So, as opposed to the Lions just facing him once this year, they're going to be, having to face, Yannick Ngakoue, very talented defensive end for a number of years to come. Minnesota's pairing him up with Danielle Hunter, so it looks like Minnesota continues to have that great dual pass rush that they seem to have, and it always seems to wreak havoc on the Lions. So once again, Ngakoue coming in the division, I mean, he's going to be a terror. I believe. I always thought he was really good. It's one of those asking price when you look at it. Gosh, it just seems like Minnesota didn't really give up a whole lot. They just gave up some draft picks for him. And, it seems like Minnesota's one thing that, their GM really does, and, Derek tends to point out is that Minnesota will stock up on draft picks. It's one thing Derek likes about Minnesota is that, they stock up on draft picks. Me, once again, prospects are suspect till they do something. So if you're able to trade a couple draft picks for, somebody with the talent of Ngakoue, of course, I'm going to do that in a second. So, and something once again the Lions are going to have to deal with. They had Danielle Hunter there, who's once again on a previous show, when asked if one guy would take off any other team and put him on the Lions, it was Danielle Hunter. I mean, the guy's young, he's talented. You're pairing him up with Ngakoue, young and talented, two stud defensive ends. So it's going to be one of those things where taking Minnesota, I mean, I was thinking, well, their defense was decent and maybe a little overrated. Now they got, two stud defensive ends. They got, a couple good linebackers, Hendricks and Barr. And, we all know what I think of their safeties. I mean, I think they have the best two safeties, in the division. So Minnesota's defense just got a whole lot tougher. It was already tough, but it just got a whole lot tougher. So it's one of those things where, see what Darrell Bevel can, come up with to try to keep that speedy pass rush off balance. Minnesota with Ngakoue. It seems like another thing where Lions were hoping that they'd add to their defense, get a pass rush, but it's just another one they missed out on. Maybe it's one of those things where, like Derek mentioned, they're still looking to maybe pick up Jadeveon Clowney, slide in there and get that guy for maybe like a 1 or 2 year deal. So once again, I don't see that happening. I think the Lions are going to roll with what they have. So I don't know, slightly disappointed to hear that it happened, and I know other Lions fans probably feel the same way. I've been reading that. It's like that's all they gave up. How come we couldn't do that? But I mean, at this point, it is what it is. We gotta, just kind of roll with it. And hopefully the Lions are able to, handle him and Danielle Hunter when they take on the Vikings twice a year. So, once again, it seems like the Lions were going to be like, what if? But who knows? Maybe he doesn't, affect the game like he did when he's in Jacksonville, putting up those numbers. But I highly doubt that. So, next thing I want to chat about was DeAndre Swift, the running back. For a bit there, he was held out of practice. He was a little dinged up. Pat, coaches weren't really saying much. They were just holding him up. He did come back to practice, for a day or two, and then he did take some time off again this week. I'm thinking that's more of just a precautionary thing, trying to ease him back in. And, hopefully that it's one of those injuries that just doesn't kind of linger. The last thing the Lions need is a pair of running backs that, you think are injury prone. Some people were saying that when Swift was at Georgia, he got dinged up, but it was one of those things where Georgia did have a crowded backfield, so he didn't have to be the bell cow, and he could split carries. And I think that's what the Lions are looking for here. Swift, I really like him. I just think they're just going to ease him back into it. I don't know how this is going to affect his, playing time early in the year. But once again, I think Kerryon's going to be the number one for the time being. He knows the system. He's been here, even though he hasn't been on the field a whole lot. He's been in the league. He kind of knows what he's looking for. I do envision at some point DeAndre Swift taking over the number one running back position on this team. But with these, little nagging, lingering injuries, it could, affect how quickly that happens. Once again, what Swift's skill set requires, just pretty much like any back, you have to be healthy. But what he does, just having a good set of knees, good ankles, quads, everything like that, just in his legs. It's I would be pretty disappointed if it was one of those things where if his rookie year he just once again was here for a few games and then put on IR for some injury. I just don't think the Lions are going to try to rush him back. I'm not saying they did that with Kerryon. I know on prior shows when Kerryon's injury was talked about, me and Derek said, hey, if he's healthy, even if it's late in the year, get him as many reps as possible whenever. It's only going to help him his career down the road. But that's what happened last year. Came back and Kerryon, he showed some sparks when he got back on the field again after being, off the field for most of the year. It's just one of those things that I really want Swift out there for all 16 games. So, fine, take it easy now. If it's one of those things, the first, few games of the season, you got to limit his touches, what he's doing, just to make sure that he's good to go, that he's 100%. I'm fine with that. I mean, Kerryon, Bo Scarborough, whoever their fourth running back, Ty Johnson, all the names we throw out there, Richard Huntley, all those names that we throw out there, as long as they can just stay healthy, Swift, get back on the field, take your time. I'm fine with it. Once again, I don't want to put you in the he's not that great category. I think you're can be a great running back here in the pros. Let's just keep that, and just take it easy. Listen to the coaches. Don't rush back. And I know you want to show your stuff here. We've seen the videos of you working out, looking, hungry. That's what the Lions really need. That nice, hungry running back. And, just listen to the coaches. You'll be fine. So, let's do this before I get into the big thing I really want to talk about. Let's take a pause for the cause right here and pay a couple bills, and we'll come right back, and we'll go into my main topic.
Why take one vacation with the family when you could take all of them? With Royal Caribbean, you don't just go to the beach. You visit a private island and race down the tallest water slide in North America. You don't just go for a road trip. You ATV and zip line through the jungle. You don't just go somewhere new. You rappel down waterfalls and discover ancient temples. Because this isn't just any vacation. This is all the vacations. Come seek the Royal Caribbean. Ships Registry, Bahamas.
Okay, welcome back to the Detroit Koolaid, everybody. Once again, this is Griff coming at you. Once again, if you want to, don't like what I'm saying, you want to touch base with me, hit me up on Twitter. That's at GrifkaDKC. That's at GRIFKADKC. Or, feel free to, call the line or leave a text at 989-272-3484. It's 989-272-3484. Or as like Derek likes to say, 989-272 Kevin Smith and Herman Moore. So, what I want to talk about today was obviously training camp's underway. We're getting really close to the season, and just from what I've been reading and hearing, there's been a number of guys that have been having a really good camp. And that's always great to hear, especially with the way the off season has ran with no OTAs, very few chances to get together as a team. It's nice to hear that these guys, mainly important guys, are having a good camp. And once again, I mean, this is all preseason games, so we're just kind of, I don't want to say lack of a better term, you guys you're kind of beating up on your own team. So I know I mentioned this on a previous show. Does that speak more for our team or how good the player is doing right at this point? So first guy I want to talk about, once again, everybody's heard it, everybody's kind of seen the videos. Matt Stafford's out there. He's having a really good camp. That's really nice to hear. He's the wily veteran. I mean, he knows what he's doing out there. But some of those throws that I'm seeing that out there on Twitter, that I'm seeing videos on Facebook, and it's nice to see he's got that nice touch. And I realize once again it's just practice. Nobody's really bearing down on him. The defensive backfield who he's thrown against, I mean, they are trying, but still, I mean, it's one of those things that it's nice to see that he has that touch. He's knowing the offense and really comfortable with this offense. That's got to be big for the team. Once again, Matt Stafford, he's got to stay upright all year, and I think he's able to, he's going to be able to put up, good stats in this offense, especially with, if the running backs can stay healthy. Him having a good camp, then once again leading the way, can only help the team in the long run. So it's really good to hear that he's not struggling with, any nagging injuries, anything like that. Everything's been here. Everything is, good for Matt Stafford so far. The next guy I wanted to touch base on was Marvin Jones. Marvin Jones, and once again, reading and seeing that he's been kind of indefensible at points there in preseason. Once again, it is a contract year for him, and everybody's heard how I feel about players in contract years. Are always going to try a little harder, even if the Lions aren't looking to re-sign him. He's trying to put up some numbers to be able to go out and gather a nice contract. From if not the Lions, then another team. He's one of those guys. I mean, if he wants to stick around, I mean, I know Derek's always says about me that I just want to throw big money on anybody. But no, I do realize Marvin Jones' age, how long he's been around. I'm not looking to give this guy, say, some 5-year deal or anything like that. A couple-year deal, bringing him back if he has a good year, I'm fine with that. But once again, depending on what wide receivers are out there on the market, what the draft looks like, who needs what. Some team may be willing to overpay a little more than what they're looking for, but right now Marvin Jones just he's having a really good training camp, and he's doing what he should be doing. Once again, wily veteran, knows what he's doing, leading by example. There's a lot of young wide receivers in camp, and he's out there showing them the way, what needs to be done, and it's nice to see that. I don't want to say just kind of going through the motions, but yeah, he's getting his body ready, getting ready for the season, looking to have a nice strong year out of Marvin Jones this year. Another guy, this one, I know I bag on the guy an awful lot, and that's Taylor Decker. Been reading stuff, he's just been having a great year. Derek's always been in his corner. How I don't think he's that great. He's not that great. Let's face it. Big news came out this week that, they signed him to a 4-year extension, $60 million guaranteed. So once again, congratulations, Taylor Decker. The Lions have their average tackle for the next 4 or 5 years. So, congratulations. You're an average player, but I hear you're having a good camp. Maybe this is where you become that stalwart that we're all looking for. That maybe not. Like Derek likes to say, if he's not in the Hall of Fame, I think he sucks. No, I think he's average. Maybe this is the part where it becomes maybe that he gets mentioned as a Pro Bowler, and everybody knows how I feel about the Pro Bowl. I always think it's one of those things, just kind of a popularity contest. But I mean, even your alternates, down the road, I don't want to say those guys are the popular guys per se. I mean, they're guys that like, oh, maybe they, they're having a good year, they should be mentioned, but it just seems like Taylor Decker's not even mentioned with the alternates. So maybe this year he can get mentioned as an alternate for the Pro Bowl, and I'll be like, okay, yeah, I'm seeing it. And I know Derek always bags on me, you don't just watch him, you only see his bad plays if you watch the whole tape, and blah, blah, blah. Come on, let's face it, guys. He's completely average, and the Lions just gave him a whole bunch of money to stick around. But he is having a good camp. So, I mean, that's one of those things that he was looking for. I mean, I mentioned it before, guys, with, looking for money. They, I don't want to say they work a little harder, but, they tend to show a little more because they are looking for that contract. So, I don't know. Maybe it's one of those things. So, I know people can bag on me. Once again, if you disagree with me, hit me up on Twitter at GrifkaDayKC because, once again, I just think he's an average player, and there's better guys out there, but we paid money for that guy, and I hope he turns out to be the the Anthony Munoz or the Jackie Slater that we're looking for. So I don't see it happening, but he is having a good camp, so it's going to be pretty important for him to have a good year, just to keep Stafford upright, and that's what we really need out of him. Also reading that Romeo Okwara, is having a good camp. Don't know if that's simply, looking to be the comeback year, player of the year. He did, have a really down year last year compared to the year before, where he showed some stuff, and I know Derek mentioned he was looking for him to have a kind of maybe a step forward, have another good year, but he really took a step back last year. But he is having a good camp. Part of that, some people are thinking maybe because his brother's there as well, he's trying to show him the ropes, kind of taking him under his wing, so that's one of those things where, you have somebody else to, I don't want to say look up to, but he's helping him out, so he's just having that good year, and he might realize, like, hey, he could be one of those guys that, is a bubble player, so he's putting in the work, to stay on the team. He wants to be here with his brother. Obviously, on draft day, they look pretty happy that Julian got drafted to the Lions, and that's what he's here for. He's going to help him out, and he's going to try to get on the field as much as possible. And maybe he needs to realize, that there's all this talk, all these names keep on getting thrown out. Like I mentioned before, Ngakoue, Jadeveon Clowney's out there. It's one of those things like, hey, I'm going to put show you guys, you don't need those guys. I'm here. I'll be the guy. You can depend on me. So it's nice to hear that Romeo Okwara is having a really good year, and that real good preseason and out there. So we just got to see how that translates to the field. When the lights are on, and the game's playing, and hopefully it's one of those things he kind of gets those pressures and those sacks that we're looking for. I'm not looking for double-digit sacks this year out of him. It would be nice, but it's one of those things. 7-8 sacks from him. Getting back. Holding that end of the line on run plays. Putting pressure on the quarterbacks. Forcing bad throws. I would really like to see that, matching him up against matching him up with Trey Flowers, because that's what the Lions really need right now. Is they definitely need a pass rush to help those defensive backs. Yeah. Speaking of the defensive backs, hearing that Amari Oruwariye is having a good camp. Obviously, I don't want to say they lit a fire under him a little bit by taking Okudah, with the third pick, but been reading things, seeing things that Oruwariye's been holding his own. He's actually been outperforming Okudah. That he could be the starter. The first game. Simply because, once again, it doesn't sound dumb that he's been here a year. Yeah, he didn't get a whole lot of playing time. He did show flashes last year playing, but once again, he's got a year under his belt, and there was no off-season training program. So Okudah was coming in, being thrown into the deep end right from the jump. So I've read things. Okudah, has been doing well at some things. Going through the rookie growing pains, so that happens to them, biting on moves, stuff like that, getting picked on a little bit, but it happens to rookies. So maybe that's why Oruwariye is having a little better, training camp, because he's seen a little bit, he knows a little more. I don't want to say he's the grizzled veteran, obviously it's only his second year, but he knows what's happening, and he kind of knows how to handle himself a little more right now. So Oruwariye back there with Trufant to start, I don't think that's terrible. Maybe a little disappointed simply because they did take Okudah with the number 3 pick. You're expecting that guy to be the plug-in already and ready to go, and you're looking for that lockdown corner like he played at Ohio State. But if it's one of those things where he's playing a little better to start, I'm not quite for sure if Okuda was out there thrown out there early and he was, starting to get picked on a lot, getting burned a lot. It could affect his game and affect his psyche, and he might, I don't know, lose a little bit of confidence by playing. But I don't think Okuda would be that way. I mean, the guy's a pretty confident player, always played pretty well at Ohio State. But Amari Oruwariye having, a good camp. That's nice to hear. It could be one of those things where if an injury comes up, it seems to happen a lot in the defensive backfield. He can go out there. Don't know how we would play as the nickel guy. I mean, Coleman's there, and still there's everybody just thinks throw a defensive back out there. It doesn't matter. Nickel, having the amount of ground you have to cover as compared to one of the outside guys. You have to be a little quicker. You have to cover a little more. I think you have to read a little more as well, and that's what they got Coleman for. So hopefully he stays healthy. But if something was happening to him, maybe Oruwariye can go down there as well. And it would, your defensive, your three are Okuda, Oruwariye, and Trufant. That doesn't sound terrible, especially since Oruwariye seems to be taking that that big step from his rookie year to his second year. So I mean, I'm pleasantly surprised and pretty pleased that a guy that they were able to get. Once again, we all thought they were going to get him in third round, got him late in draft. He's having a good camp. That's really good to hear. So another guy that I'm hearing so much about is Quinta Cephas. I know Derek loves this guy's name. I know he makes fun of me for picking guys who like their names, but the guy's a cool name, but he's having a great camp as well. And just hearing a lot of things that he's getting open, even if he doesn't have a great amount of speed. It's one of those things where the routes he runs, he's able to create separation. Not to mention he's just got really strong hands, so he catches the ball really, really well. It's one of those things I know Lions fans, we always kind of get chagrined when we have guys that drop the ball, and especially on those, when there's a guy kind of draped over them, and when it's dropped, we can scream, hey, there's pass interference there, or something like that when you don't get the call. But still, Cephas has been catching a lot. He's been getting separation, and he's in the slot. So, but I still believe this is one of those guys with who they have starting, with Golladay, Amendola, and Jones. He may be another guy that they kind of bring a little slower, not throw him right into the mix right from the jump, because you do have some wily veterans there that know what they're doing. Not to mention they have Hawkinson, once again, another guy who's having a great camp. I brought him up on a previous episode, but there's 4 wide receivers or four ball catchers right there that the Lions are going to be looking to get the ball. So if Cephas comes along, a little slower, doesn't have a great year, just kind of makes catches here and there to move the chains, I would be very pleased with that. Maybe that's just what they want him for. That those third and shorts, second, maybe those second and shorts, you just want to move the chains that way. Bring him in there, have him get the tough catch. He's able to create a little bit of separation and move the chains that way. You don't always have to be a speedster, running the go route and running by people to be an effective, wide receiver. Hey, everyone, every once in a while, just a guy that catches an 8-yard pass to move the chains, keep the drive going. I'm happy with that. And right now it seems like Cephas is one of those guys that can do that. So those guys, and I'm sure there's a few other guys that are having real good camps that I've missed or haven't heard nearly as much about. But those are the few guys that I think, especially Jones, Stafford, Decker, and Aquara. Those are the guys. Those are 4 key guys on this team that I believe have to have a really good year for this team to go anywhere this year. I know we're all expecting a big jump. I'm starting to see a lot more pundits are kind of like, don't sleep on the Lions. I've seen a few different articles mentioning different guys that are saying it's like, hey, don't sleep on the Lions this year. I know everybody thinks they're just kind of like the Lions, but based on where other teams are at in the division. And once again, I was reading these articles before Minnesota got Ngakoue. But there was one of those things where they're just like, hey, don't sleep on these guys. These guys are going to be better than what you think. And still, there's still plenty of other guys out there. As I know, was Colin Cowherd. I saw him. He had the Lions at 5-11. I mean, this team is better than 5 wins. Come on, it is. It just is. I realize they have a tough schedule, but still they are. But these guys are putting in the work at training camp. I know me and Derek, we're going to run through, break down every game like we always do. We both picture a lot of W's, even with this very difficult schedule. And like I said, those guys right there are 4 of the main guys I believe really need to do well for the Lions to go somewhere this year. A couple more talking points before I finish out here. Saw an article once again. Rod Woods hoping to have at least some fans in the seats by the Colts game. Once again, not quite for sure. If that's going to be possible, depending on what's happening. I know the governor of the state of Michigan, she is wielding some power, trying to keep everybody safe, which I completely understand. But I always think that having some fans in the stands at home is a definite help. It can help your team. So hopefully having fans there, at least for the Colts game. The Colts, they got a great defense. They got Phillip Rivers coming in. Their offense, is going to be, it's not spectacular, but it's going to be, they're going to be a tough team. And so having some fans in there just to help out, get a little bit of crowd noise going, keep the team pumped up. I like the way that sounds. So I don't ever have any real issues with that. I'm just, happy to see that. Maybe football maybe get a little more back to normal. At least put a few butts in the seats there, as opposed to watching empty stadium seats. It's just I know in other sports that it's happening right now. It's just kind of odd to see. It looks kind of very scrimmage-esque, even though these games are counting. Just having some fans in the stands, that would be pretty cool for the Lions. Another talking point I want to mention. Once again, Lions' first home game, coming up here in just a matter of time. It's right around the corner, and that is they're playing the Bears. And once again, we all know they signed and they got Nick Foles in the offseason to compete with Mitch Trubisky, and Matt Nagy's like kind of holding his cards close to the vest. He's not telling who's going to be the starter is, and it's just like, really. I mean, you got Nick Foles there, and you brought him in here to like ride pine behind Mitch Trubisky. Really? Come on. We all know who the starter is going to be. It's going to be Foles. You didn't bring him in here to sit the bench. I said it before. I think Nick Foles, I don't think he ain't that great. But he's definitely better than Mitch Trubisky, because everybody knows that. I think Mitch is a dog's name. Even though Derek has pointed out to me that Mitch, he's never heard a dog named Mitch before. But Mitch just sounds like a dog's name. To me, that's just me. Hey, anybody named Mitch, listening to me, hey, hit me up on Twitter at GriffGadeDKC. Maybe we can talk and you can change my mind on that. But I realize Mitch now goes by Mitchell because he's trying to sound a little more professional. But, dude, you still suck. And I know people are going to be like, well, he's never lost to the Lions. I don't think that's because of his greatness by any stretch of the imagination. I think that's more of like where the Lions were at the time, how porous their defense was, how it was playing. It's not like this guy's going out there, being a world beater or anything like that. So we all know Nick Foles is, going to be the starter for game 1. So Matt Nagy, stop trying to be Mr. Mr. Tricky. You're going to have to figure out both of us. You don't know which one we're going to play. I hate to break it to you. Both your quarterbacks suck. And what's the old adage? If you have more than one quarterback that can start, you don't have a quarterback that can play. That's what the Bears have right now. That team is in disarray. I know me and Derek will probably break them down next week on the show. But still, I'm just going to say it right now. Both your quarterbacks suck. I don't care who you start. You're going to walk into Ford Field, and the Lions are just going to punch you in the face and take your candy and walk out, okay? And they're just going to leave you bloodied on the field. So I don't care who you start. You can start whoever you want. Start Mitch or Nick. It's not going to matter at all because both quarterbacks suck. So just go out and name one. Let them know who's getting the reps. Stop being Mr. Tricky and fool the Detroit Lions because I think it's not going to matter in the long run. So as everybody knows, it's going to be my last show before the season starts, and me and Derek get rolling here. So I guess I get to kind of say whatever I want about the season, in that. So once again, everybody knows I'm a big Lions fan. I'm hoping for these guys to really, really produce this year and take that big step forward. I know there's times like Derek calls me the waffle maker. I really waffle on Matt Pat as coach. I think there's some stuff that he does pretty well, but there's some stuff he still leaves me kind of shaking my head. Clock management, some of his calls sometimes, it just kind of leaves me thinking, like, what the hell are you doing? I wish I had the soundbite right there, but I'm still in his corner, and I know Derek's saying that, you're going to say that right until something bad, then you're going to be Mr. Eeyore Downer. Hey, I'm going to be in their corner and watching them, cheering them on, always hoping that they get the W no matter what their record is, even when, if things go south and people just lose for the draft pick. I'm always hoping that the Detroit Lions, pull out a W no matter what. And so let's hope for the good year. I think this team can do some damage where it's at, what they've picked up, and where they're going to go. So, as always, everybody, drink it in, and I really appreciate you guys listening to me, and we'll be back next week with our show starting to break down the regular season. Once again, everybody, have a good weekend.
Pack the bag, start the plane. This game is over. It is over. What a comeback by the Lions.
Drink it in, man.